Jdu and admissions. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce you to our speakers. Professor Dr. Upasana Mahanta, Dean, Admissions and Outreach and Professor at Jindal Global Law School. Professor Upasana has a PhD and MPhil from Jawaharlal Nehru University and MA from University of Delhi. She was a Shastri Doctoral Fellow and Center for Women's and Gender Studies, University of British Columbia, Vancouver, Canada. Her research interests also include her role in women engagement, political institutions, gendered development through gendered lens. Prior to joining Jdu, she was working as an assistant professor with TIS, that is Tata Institute of Social Sciences at Mumbai. And another speaker who has joined us for the session today is Ms. Shrija Jha, who hails from Kolkata and has completed her BA LLB from Jindal Global Law School. In addition to being an alumna of Jdu, Shrija is also working as a University Administrative Services Executive with us. Despite struggling with pandemic for over 2 years, the education sector has brought about a number of major developments. This includes the rise in use of apps and hybrid learning, widespread switch to online schooling, and coming up of dynamic and academic programs that are providing a holistic and global experience to students and are opening new career opportunities for them. On this point, I would like Professor Upasana to talk about changes in the education landscape. Over to you, Professor.
Thank you. Thank you, Vanitha. And you're absolutely right. There are rapid changes that we see in the education landscape, not only in India, but across the globe. And I think in India, the changes have become more pronounced during and post, or I don't know if you can use the word post, COVID-19 period. Because, increasingly we see the emergence of blended learning, emergence of experiential learning systems, online learning system that the students are engaging with. So yes, the educational landscape is fast changing, and in this you also have the National Education Policy that has come up, which kind of reimagines the education system in India, talks about flexible entry and exit, talks about research intensive, praxis-based learning, talks about a more vocational training and education, talks about having an academic bank of credit. So the way we have looked at education in a very, very linear fashion so far, now we are moving more and more towards interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary kinds of forms of education. So you're absolutely right when you say that the education sector in India is fast changing. You also see that a lot of universities, just like ours, OP Jindal Global University, which is a private university, but has emerged at one of the, we are an institution of eminence recognized by the Ministry of Education, Government of India. So increasingly private institutions are also coming to play a significant role in the way the education sector in India is being shaped. So yes, to answer your question, the education landscape is fast changing. So as the demand of the industry in terms of the kind of jobs that are available, the kind of demand for an interdisciplinary education that is there in terms of what is it that the market is looking for in terms of prospective employees. So yeah, and that's all I would say right now, and perhaps we can have a deeper discussion.
Sure, Professor. Thank you so much, Professor Upasana, for sharing such interesting insights with us. Ms. Shrija, as a recent pass out from Jindal Global University, a university like Jdu, we would like to hear from you on your experience from moving from school to university, with your live examples, what you'd like to share. Over to you, Shrija.
Okay, good morning, everyone. So yes, Just like any other student, there was quite the initial apprehension, right? When you're moving from, say, an institution like a school, which is more stringent, to a university, you have things that you have questions about. There's a massive change that's going to happen. You're going to be moving away from home and all of those things. So when I applied for Jindal, I had heard a lot about it. I knew of the global curriculum and I wanted to explore more of that. So when I gave LSAT, I was actually quite impressed because the exam itself is not based on redundant logics like general knowledge. Instead, so I am from the law school, and the most important facet of a lawyer is to be able to logically interpret materials. And the exam was based on that, training you on your verbal skills and interpretation of logics and analytics. Now, the exam itself was quite a smooth process. And once I got in, I was actually quite happy. So when I came to visit the university, I spoke to a couple of faculty members. I took a round of the campus and I was really impressed with how beautiful everything was. And just the environment in itself was quite vibrant. So that was the first part of it. But then comes the part where I actually got to campus and I began my university life. So what Jindal gives to us in the first week is the buddy project, which I think is really, really important and significant because you don't really know as a student, right, how to go about, how to step into that adulthood sector. So we had orientation that ranged from, gender sensitivity to understanding sex ed and all sorts of things that was covered, and under getting to know our peers, which was the most important things because we were a diverse group of people, not just from India, but everywhere, like all over the world. So to be able to get to know such a diverse range of people and understand their experiences, it was great. And moving on, the other thing that I was really, really impressed by was the way academics kind of took place in this institution, which is very different from how school used to be. So it was an open environment. We had brilliant professors from, again, all over the globe who were not very traditional and stringent in their approach. It was always an open conversation. The curriculum in itself was quite holistic and multidisciplinary, and it made it easier to understand things which probably would have restricted us otherwise if it was just taught from a book. So the practical knowledge, especially in a field like law, is incredibly important, which we were always assisted with by our professors, conversations, and clinical courses. We had specific societies that helped us hone our skills. So I particularly remember our ADR and Moot Court Society, which trains you, gives you that simulation of being a lawyer. So that was great. And then apart from that, we have the options of taking electives. So I'm someone who was interested in art a lot, and I wanted to understand the intersection, if there was one, between law and art. And the electives really helped us and aided us in finding that out and figuring our way and maneuvering our way through that. So that was another thing. And now moving to the extracurricular activity, there was so much work that was being done by Jindal in terms of legal aid camps. And then we had clinical courses that helped us go into the real world and use the knowledge that we had gained, and apply that in a real sense. And I remember that whenever we needed an internship that was specific to our interest, the OCS was always there in the background trying to figure out ways to get us there. And that was in itself academically a great adventure, I'd say, that I embarked upon. And of course, university, apart from these aspects, is great when you meet a diverse group of people and you're experiencing their experiences from different parts of the world. And yeah, I made great friends and I had great memories, and I learned a lot of new things, and I basically found an interest of my own, and I was able to channel that and work that out over those 5 years that I've spent in Jindal. So I mean, the fact that I studied law and I'm doing something now that's related a lot to management speaks amounts, about how diversely you're trained in this university, in not just one linear aspect, but on a holistic platform. So
All right, Shrija, thank you so much. It was really good to hear from you, your experiences, your everyday experiences at the university, and the different aspects that you spoke about. So while student experiences are changing every day, what is also changing is the way universities are operating and their approach to admissions. Professor Upasana, as Dean of Admissions and Outreach at JGU, would like to share some insights on new and dynamic application process at universities with a focus on JGU and how it has adapted to the complex world. Professor Upasana.
Thank you, Vanita. And actually, thank you, Shrija, for saying what you have said. And it is what you said, it's so very important. Vanita, pardon me, I'm going to sort of digress a little and respond to what Shrija said, which is that, you know, this journey from schools to universities, which is the very theme of the webinar, is such a complex and dynamic one. And one actually starts understanding it, Shrija, when we speak to students like you who have gone through their transition and what you found was helpful. Because you know, the way our school education is tailored, for the better or for worse, it does not really prepare you for university life. It does not really prepare you for what to expect, you know, both within and outside the classroom. And therefore, I'm so glad to know that some of the mechanisms, some of the supports structures, some of the processes, say from buddy project to the mentorship systems and to the societies and others that we have in place. It's so heartening to know, and especially from somebody like you, to see how it has helped you navigate that space. So it is quite heartening to know that. And actually, this is connected to the question, Vanita, that you asked about the application process, because if I talk about our university, if I talk about OP Jindal Global University, this is not something new. This is not something that we are doing now and did not do earlier. As a university, our vision was very much rooted in being able to you know, understand our students holistically and not define their successes by, say, a percentage of marks that they wouldn't have gotten at class 12. At the very beginning, we were not driven, and I'm talking about our largely humanities, social sciences, and other programs, where we never sort of put the yardstick solely on, say, the percentage of marks that a student gets. Right. We always looked at the application process as much more holistic in terms of, you know, having to submit statement of purposes and having to write short write-ups depending on the program that you're applying to, just to get a sense of where is the student coming from, you know, what kind of understanding and aspiration with which a student comes to a program, and also the faculty interaction that a student goes through, you know, as part of the admission process. So the admission process at JDU is not defined by, as I said, by the percentage of marks that one has gotten in class 12 or at the undergrad level if you're offering for a opting for a postgraduate program. You have to take an exam after, you know, those who want to apply for next year, or who have completed class 12 and got their results and want to apply for this year. We have something called the Jset Examination, which is a Jindal Scholastic Aptitude Test. Right. So one has to write the Jset examination. We also accept, you know, CAT scores. We accept CUET scores now, if some of you have, although the results are yet not out and our classes would have already started. So you give the Jset examination. If you want to apply for our law programs, the 5-year law programs, BLLB, BBLLB, BCom LLB, then you would have to give an exam called the LSET examination. Right? And for rest of our programs, you give Jset examination. For our architecture program, we accept NATA scores or JE scores. Right? Once you qualify that, you would be asked to do a faculty interaction. And once you qualify in the faculty interaction, and then you are given an offer of admission. So it's a very holistic, we want to understand overall what is it that, you know, the university can add value to your education process, and how are you able to become a part of the very ethos that the university stands for. That is the idea behind the holistic admission process that we do. Yeah, over to you, Vanika.
Thank you, Professor Upasana. So I hope everyone understood how we actually take in students. It's not only the percentage of marks that we look at, but the other aspects as well. So while we see many universities modifying their application process, it would also be interesting to know about what do universities look in for applicants. Ms. Shrija, would you like to share some of your experiences at JGU here?
So yes, the best part about being here was that while we were here, the expectation was not to be something extraordinary right from the beginning, because at the same time, the institution is supposed to be the space where you're trained to be somebody, to become that somebody. So in JGU, I've always felt that we had enough mentorship from our professors and from the societies that we were a part of and the faculty in getting there. Every step of the way, the advice that we needed was given to us. And I remember, especially in the pandemic, I remember like it was such a difficult time to shift from that, offline format to that online format. But at General, we never felt that. It was such a smooth transition. And there was no there was no hindrance to the way we were taught things. Professors were still available on call when we needed their guidance about certain things. Examinations were never such a problematic fora. The professors would help us out when we needed it. We had essay-based assignments to develop our own cognitive thinking. We had vivas to train us and in the ways that we speak and the ways that we represent ourselves. That is the most important part of it. So at JGU, that is something that I have recognized how to do, to take yourself, take your interests and develop that into something concrete and solid in terms of representation and maneuver the space that is the real world once you exit the university, because that's really important, because the university in itself is going to be like a bubble where you are getting these experiences where you're transforming yourself. But is that enough to prepare you for the real world? And my answer to that is yes, definitely. At JGU, they do that and we do that. So coming to the real world and now finally settling into the workspace environment, I realize how supportive the entire process has been into who I am today, in terms of the way I am able to speak and formulate my thoughts, formulate my skills, and apply that in real world situations. It's incredibly important that as a student, you're exposed to these things while you are in university, so that you can be your 100% when you graduate. And I think that when I graduated from Jindal, I was my 100%.
Thank you, Shrija, for sharing your experiences with us. I'm sure it will help many of our students present here to get a glance of what it is like to be a student at JGU. We highly promote interdisciplinarity and cross-learning at JGU. And Professor Upasana, it would be great if we can hear your views on this. You have been associated with the university for over 10 years and have been involved in diverse departments. What are your thoughts on interdisciplinarity at JGU?
Well, so at the heart of it, we have to first understand what is interdisciplinarity, right? We often talk about interdisciplinarity, particularly in the context of the education system today. Well, what is interdisciplinarity? Interdisciplinarity at the heart of it tells you that no discipline exists in isolation, right? And that to be able to understand and a discipline in all its nuances, you need to understand how this discipline interacts and intersects with other disciplinary knowledge bases, right? At the end of the day, this is what interdisciplinarity is. And why is interdisciplinarity important? Because, for example, say you are a law student at JGU or in any other place, right? How do you become a lawyer without having an understanding about how society operates, right? How political economy operates. So you need to have an understanding of sociology and political science and history to be able to understand, say, the legal history of law, the changing contours of law, and how law responds to social political realities, right? So interdisciplinarity is rooted in that thought. How do we engage with interdisciplinarity or interdisciplinary teaching and learning in the context of JGU? We do it in two ways. One is that each of the programs here are rooted in interdisciplinarity. So if you're doing, for example, a bachelor's degree in political science, right? You cannot study political science without having an interdisciplinary understanding of economy, sociology, history. So that is one way of understanding interdisciplinarity. The other way of understanding interdisciplinarity and how we practice it in the context of JGU is the, a bouquet of cross-registered courses that are available for students. I think beauty of a place like JGU is that we are rooted in a larger disciplinary ecosystem. We have 12 schools, right? Law, business, liberal arts, journalism, environment and sustainability. We have public health, language and literature, right? Banking and finance. So there are 12 schools, and with multiple undergrad and postgrad programs. So what we are essentially able to provide is a bouquet of 320 plus cross-registered electives. So a student from a business school can take an elective in the School of Government and Public Policy. A student from the architecture school can take an elective in the School of Business, right? So it is possible to have access to an interdisciplinary bouquet of courses and electives that enables you to have that a truly interdisciplinary understanding of knowledge, and it is done in a very, very systematic way. We have an Office of Academic Planning. All our core courses are done actually by 4:30. All our core courses across all the schools are done. And so now from 4:35 p.m. onwards in the evening, all the cross-registered electives are there. So so that students are able to take these courses, right? So interdisciplinarity in that sense is rooted in these possibilities that one offers to students. So students from, say, the psychology school can take electives in the environment school, right? And students actually, say in our liberal arts and humanities, we have an option called the self-designed major. So students have actually combined courses from psychology and environment and gone on to do majors in environmental psychology, right? And created a very niche path for themselves in terms of career through the kind of interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary education that is being provided at the university. I hope that responds to your question, Mary.
Absolutely, it does.
Actually, Shrija, you can talk about some of the experiences that you've had with cross-registered courses or kind of courses that you have done.
Yes, Professor. So one of my favorite courses that I have taken was Art and Heritage Law. And as the course name itself, it was talking about the intersections of art and law in the real sense within the boundaries of India, and also a global perspective on the same. So through that, I learned how to channelize two different concepts that one could possibly not think of on the same, same kind of a spectrum, but that was put together and I was able to learn more about it. And it was quite interesting. On the other hand, my other interest is a lot into animal welfare. So we had a course on animal welfare law, and it taught us the practical aspects, all the legislations that talk about animal welfare. And not just that, we looked into the philosophy of it, what exactly is meant by animal welfare. So the thing is, these curriculums that are provided through these electives, it's not just on a surface level, it's a holistic curriculum that delves deep into the topic itself. So you're not just getting a taste of it, but you're getting the entire experience of it through those months that you've taken the course. And that is the best part about being able to take these electives. Like, you're a law student, you're doing BA LLB, but at the same time, you're interested in, say, something that has to do with commercialization, something to do with banking and finance. And at the same time, you take those courses, you get a little bit of an interest developed through that first course. And maybe over the 5 years that you have, out of which in the 3 years, you can take these electives, right? So you continuously take on these electives, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, like go too deep into it. And by the time you're going to be graduating, you have, as Professor Mahanta said, you have a niche interest that's developed, and you can actually work on that. So very something that really makes me happy is one of my friends, Kavya. She was also in BA LLB. She was just a lot into law in the beginning, but as time went on, she got interested in spaces, the idea of urban spaces. And currently, through the electives that she took, she built her interest. And currently, she's doing a fellowship with IHS, which is a very premium fellowship to get into the first space. So, I'm very happy for her, because through these 5 years, she was able to develop an interest and actually work on it and come out with something really concrete, and she's got a long way to go, but she's halfway there still, So in that way, I'm really glad that Jindal provides you that platform, which I honestly have not seen anywhere else, where it's not just linear, it's more holistic, and it's more interest based. So it's not very stringent, but at the same time, you still get your credits. You still get your credits. You can still find the time to do it, and you're doing your assignments, you're learning something new. So it's not for nothing, right? It's for something. So yes.
Absolutely, Shrija. Thank you so much for detailing the interdisciplinarity of courses which JGU offers. So now, while we move on to the last part of our session, Professor Upasana, it would be great if you can share some tips with our students here.
I see a question on the chat where somebody has asked that can we give an exam even before completing class 12? See, it's a rolling basis. The entrance test happens on a rolling basis, so you can take the exam. But of course, your entry to the university will depend on your having successfully qualified in class 12. That is very important because that is the last qualifying exam. We do not go necessarily by the percentage of marks that you get, but you have to qualify the exam. Right, that is one. And two, I think, there is so much emphasis that we give, and I'm sure, Shrija, you will agree, in our education system, both at the university level for the longest time, although hopefully things are changing for the better, slowly but steadily. But particularly in the context of our school education, it's so much about an outcome which is always in terms of percentage or marks. The outcome has never been in terms of, Vanita, knowledge, right? That our worth, our value is always being weighed in terms of the percentage or the marks that we got. And therefore, I felt that at the heart of education, if you take all the other paraphernalias away, at the heart of education is a curiosity to know, right? A thirst, a desire for knowledge. And somehow that thirst, that desire for knowledge gets completely overshadowed by this competitive desire for marks. So as opposed to learning and knowing, it becomes about mugging and reproducing. Right. So if I have to think about giving any tips or to I would urge students and parents and guardians and mentors and faculty and teachers and counselors to work towards keeping that curiosity alive. To keep that desire for knowledge alive. And not be guided or misguided by this understanding that somehow your entire being, your self-worth is being defined by a percentage of marks that you may or may not get. And once you engage with a subject, engage with knowledge, engage with the discipline for the love of it, you cannot go wrong with it, right? So whether you study in Jindal University or any other educational institution, this is something one must keep in mind. The other thing to all the students who are in class 11th or 12th or are looking to think about in terms of an educational institutions or a program that they would want to study, I would want you to keep in mind 4 to 5 things. Okay, it really doesn't, you can apply this to any educational institution that you're thinking about. It does not, because we are talking from a Jindal platform, but it does not necessarily have to be us. But when you're committing yourself to an educational institution, to an undergrad or a postgrad program, I would urge you to think about the following. 1, think about the quality of faculty that would be teaching you, right? Who is teaching you? Who is going to be shaping your thought process in the 3, 2, or 5 years that you're going to spend in this educational institution? So look at the quality of faculty, because that also determines pedagogic tools, the methods of teaching that are brought into the context of the classroom, so on and so forth. Second, look at whether the program that you do, the education that you're committing to, is rooted in interdisciplinarity or not, right? And we spoke about the significance of interdisciplinarity already. 3, look at the industry-academia interface that the program or the institution offers you. What does it mean? It means that are your curriculums tailored in a way that they respond to what is it that is the need and demand of the hour? Is your curriculum and what you're learning is rooted in the realities of contemporary time? Is it something that you can take and apply to real life situations? Are these programs offering you internships opportunities? Are these programs offering you opportunities to learn by doing? Right? For example, at our university, we make sure that every summer or winter you are doing internships. We have an Office of Career Services, which helps you align your intensive interest and aspirations to the right organization. So what kind of industry academia interface is the program or the educational institution offering? 4th, what kind of internationalization opportunities that you have? We are living in a world that is increasingly becoming smaller and smaller in terms of, its interconnectedness, right? So what kind of international opportunities that you can avail, semester exchanges, short-term study abroad programs, dual degrees. There's so many ways that you can access internationalization, right? So look at that. And finally, the 5th thing, look at what is the larger ecosystem that you're becoming a part of in terms of, support systems that you have, in terms of mentorship programs, in terms of having the right guidance to help you navigate through these spaces. Are there possibilities of engaging creatively beyond the classroom experience? So what kind of university experience that you get, which is not necessarily rooted in what happens within the context of the classroom? So, this should become your litmus test. And if you find an institution, a program that enables you to have these, then that's it. That's where you would be able to shine and flourish. So that's my tip, Vanita.
Thank you so much, Professor Upasana. I hope all the students here have taken note of these points, what Professor Upasana has spoken. Choosing your career, your university is just a first step towards your career. So I hope you all do it pretty well. So now the panel is happy to take up any questions that participants would like us to address. You can also drop in your questions and Q&A box. If anyone has any questions.
Ms. Vanita, there are some questions in the chat, the Q&A box, if we could refer to those.
Let me just see. Yes, Professor, when we can register for JGU, that's one of our attendees is
Whenever you want to. No, not whenever you want to, but you can, if you have completed or are about to complete your class 12, then, you can apply. Do you know that currently the 2022 admissions are on? So because our classes are starting from September, most of our programs are starting from September.
Right.
For applying for 2023, the process will start from mid to end October. We'll go to open the applications for the 2023 admissions. From say mid to end October, we will do an announcement and you can start applying for the 2023 cohort. For the 2022 admissions, the admissions are now currently open. We are going to close very soon.
Thank you, Professor. There's one more question. When the JSAT will take place?
So as I said, Jset happens on a rolling basis. Once you finish your application form, it is an online remotely proctored exam, right? It is done independent by the internationally renowned group called the Pearson Group. So it is not administered by us. It is a completely independent process. So once you fill in your application, you will be guided you can book your slot for applying for admission. My colleague Upma has already put the link on the chat. So once you do that, you can also schedule your Jset examination. Once you schedule the Jset examination and you qualify the exam, then the admission office will guide you towards with the rest of the process, faculty interview and other things.
All right. If anyone has any questions, they can directly write an email to us as well at admissions@jdu.edu.in. And that's it for today. Thank you so much, Professor Upasana and Shrija.
Thank you, Vanita. Thank you, Shrija. Lovely talking to you. Thanks, Vanita.
Thank you,
Good
Vanita.
job. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Upma. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.